What is up, guys? Rick Hack is here, and today we are discussing Titanfall 2's single player. And playing in the background is some exclusive Titanfall 2 single player footage. Now, how I got access to this footage and why we're talking about Titanfall 2's single player is because last week I was invited out to LA to Respawn Entertainment Studios to attend a special Titanfall 2 event. Part of this event was a presentation by the developers talking about their single player and what it's bringing to the table. And that is exactly the information I'm relaying to you guys today. Now, this single player presentation was of course only one small part of the overall event, so guys, next week, all I can say is, if you're a fan of Titanfall and you're looking forward to the Titanfall 2 multiplayer, next week, get ready. On this channel, it's going to be absolutely nuts. I can't wait to show you what I have in store. I can't say more because I'm under NDA, but just get ready. Now, today though, we are talking about the single player. And again, what they're bringing to the table, what the Titanfall 2 single player is kind of doing to differentiate itself from the other traditional single players we have, Call of Duty and Battlefield and the like. Now, the first main thing that Titanfall 2 single player kind of makes it its own thing a little bit, and what the developers were kind of saying was one of the main pillars of the single player, is the relationship between you and your Titan. Now, at first when I heard this, I wasn't that impressed, like, and even from you hearing it from me, you're going, okay, the guy and his Titan, like, how is that big of a deal? But this time around, your Titan has a lot more personality. Like I'm sure you guys saw from the Titanfall 2 single player trailer, he actually talks a lot more, and he is kind of an AI. Your Titan is somewhat of an AI, is capable of critical thinking and interacting with you and potentially having some sort of emotion. So having that one main character aspect in the game, I actually think is a huge benefit. Getting to know your Titan and getting to know Titans in general seems like a cool thing, and that's a juxtaposition that's opposed to what we're used to with traditional shooters like Call of Duty and Battlefield, where you're thrown in with these squad mates. Like, can you even remember the names of your squad mates from the last Call of Duty or Battlefield games? Like, usually not, and that's kind of the downside of those games where you don't have any characters to really grab onto. The original Call of Duties where you have Soap McTavish and Price and stuff, that is definitely different, but with the more recent Call of Duties, I'm sure most of you would agree with what I'm saying. And so having that one main character that's with you throughout the campaign and is interacting with you throughout the campaign, I think is a cool way to learn more about Titans in general and to have that good character development. And actually, during what they showed us, it was a very interesting and kind of amusing and funny part where I'm sure you guys saw from the single player trailer, the Titan throws the player kind of across this gap, and in the actual single player, Titan is like, I'm gonna have to throw you across this gap. There's a 68% chance of success, and your player kind of goes, wait, 60, like, what's the other 32? And the Titan just starts listing off all the other things that could go wrong, like, oh, it could be disembowelment, there could be disfigurement, catastrophic injury, and your guy's like, okay. It was just kind of a genuinely funny and entertaining moment, and it was very well written, and I did appreciate that. And it wasn't like too much, it wasn't sappy, it was just on the number, like you interacting with this machine who is just very blunt, like this is the percent of you living, this is what could go wrong. I felt that was quite amusing, and that is something I'm looking forward to in the overall campaign. Now, other things that they're bringing to the table, and this was another main thing that I'm very excited for, is that they are introducing, like they're playing on Titanfall's movement system. Titanfall 1 and of course Titanfall 2 have a very fluid, developed movement system that is one of the main attractions, honestly, to the game, is that you can wall run, double jump, you can get around to these crazy angles, and especially now with the grappling hook, that has increased even more so. And this is played on in the single player in the form of puzzles. There was a huge section of what they showed us in single player where you get this arc gun, and actually there was another amusing moment where there was this little like repair maintenance robot with his arc gun just doing his job, and you take it from him and there's like a little box on him that shows a smiley face, and when you take the arc gun it switches to a frown, and it was just kind of funny, like you're taking this robot's one job in life is to just use this little arc gun. But in any event, you take this arc gun and it controls things. You can turn on and off fans and doors and like modules and stuff. And then it was really interesting how the player worked his way back through the level, figuring out when to turn on and off fans in order to get to, you know, the upper levels and stuff. And this is not like anything massively innovative or anything, but I think that it's definitely a good idea, and it's going to be a nice way to differentiate pace within the campaign. Like, if you're playing traditional shooter campaigns, every level is just guns blazing, shooting faceless, nameless enemies, and it kind of all melds together. But being able to have these movement puzzles and dynamic situations is going to help, again, differentiate gameplay and change up pace within the game. And on top of that, there was little things like you could move this crane around and kind of determine where to put this block that you could then, of course, jump to and wall run to. And it looked like there was multiple paths to which you could choose, and utilizing, again, that movement system in order to make your way through the level. And that was definitely cool. And again, I'm glad they seem to be capitalizing on the fact that they do have this fun and attractive movement system within the game. On top of that, something I noticed that was really cool was they had these kind of mini bosses that, like, you were going through this level, and then I swear it was Arnold Schwarzenegger. They got Arnold Schwarzenegger to come on, and you were listening to the enemy radio, and they were, of course, talking about you and that we need to go and stop this guy. And then finally, the Arnold Schwarzenegger character was like, "I'm done with you amateurs. I'm going to go down and do this myself." And so he goes down in his Titan, and it actually did exactly kind of what Borderlands does, where it kind of zoomed in on his character. He gets out of his Titan, he kind of gives you, "I'll do this myself, like, bring it on," and then you start the, you know, boss battle, essentially the mini boss battle with this guy. And I love that. I loved it in Borderlands where they did that. You had personality to the guys you were fighting. They weren't just these nameless enemies. They actually had a little bit of a personality, and it seems like Titanfall has kind of got its inspiration from Borderlands, and they're doing somewhat the same thing. So that's just a little thing, but it seemed enjoyable to me, and it's something that I do appreciate. And the last thing about the single player that I really noticed was just that it was gorgeous. Like, you have this world in Titanfall, you have all these alien planets, and in the single player they can actually introduce these kind of massive vistas and all of these awesome locations, whereas in the multiplayer you can somewhat have that, but you can't have it to the extent that you can in single player. So it was actually pretty cool going out and to explore the world of Titanfall, which really wasn't explored too much in the first game, of course, because it was all multiplayer and it was all confined to these small multiplayer maps. So that finally that's not the case anymore with the introduction of single player. Now, all in all of these things are benefits. Like, it looked like an enjoyable campaign, honestly. Like, I'm probably gonna when I get Titanfall 2, I'm probably gonna jump headfirst into the multiplayer, but having the single player option is something that I probably will end up doing, and it does look like a fun, enjoyable single player. With that being said, gotta be honest with you guys, they don't really look like they're bringing anything absolutely massive to the table in terms of, like, you know, turning single player on its head for shooters. There's the small innovations, like I've said. Having the interaction with your Titan seems like a fun dynamic to the single player. The fact that there's these jumping puzzles and they're really capitalizing on the movement system, and the fact that you have these memorable characters with the boss battles and you have a beautiful world, those are all pluses, but again, they aren't massively, you know, rewriting the rule book when it comes to single player for first person shooters. Something like the original Call of Duty 4, that rewrote the playbook, and I don't necessarily think Titanfall 2 is going to do that with this. But that's really my only criticism, and again, that's maybe even an unnecessary criticism. I'm coming from a world of Destiny, and, you know, I love Mass Effect as well, and those are hugely, like, those single players are absolutely epic compared to what you get in, like, a first-person shooter, what you're gonna get for Titanfall 2. So I'm sure for a lot of other people, they won't feel like that. They'll feel like the Titanfall 2 single player is more than enough. But again, for me, that was my one criticism. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, learned something new. I'm sure you did. And if you did, please remember to help me out by simply liking and especially sharing this video. Now, if you're not a subscriber yet and you're into Titanfall 2, trust me, slap that subscribe subscribe button because next week things are gonna get insane. Now, if you guys want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, best way is to follow me on Twitter. That's linked in the description down below at RickHackis, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day. Now, the Cryptarch is just such a huge part of Destiny. He is so associated with the game, both in the positive, like when he gave you your first exotic out of a legendary engram, and the negative, like when he gave you blues out of your other 100 legendary engrams. But either way, he is just so strongly a part of Destiny, and that's why it's kind of sad to see him so heavily fallen from grace, become so essentially useless within the current state of the game.